Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special session. This session is entitled WSIS Forum 2017 on ICT-driven innovation and its impact on smart governance and finance management systems, ArcTel and United Nations University. I happen to be the moderator, Cosmas Zavazawa. I am Chief of Department for Projects and Knowledge Management in the ITU development sector. We have three distinguished speakers this afternoon. I will just make the opening remarks and I'll give them the floor. They will take turns to talk to you. Mr. Philippe Batista, Executive Secretary of ArcTel and the CPLP, by show of hand, yes. And Mr. Ibrahim Rohman, Research Fellow, United Nations University e-Governance, and Mr. Nuno Lopes, Postdoctoral Fellow, United Nations University and e-Governance. So this afternoon, this is a very unique session. It is not about talks. It is about doing things and tangible things. We are focusing on an initiative which is driven by ArcTel, and Philippe here, the Executive Secretary, is very dynamic, action-oriented individual. As you will see, his presentation and that from the university is going to show the practical aspects of ICTs and how they drive the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. I think the most important thing is for us to look at three fundamental principles. One, to look at the issue of access, where we deal with the issue of infrastructure and rolling out infrastructure. And two, to look at the issue of the use of that infrastructure through ICT applications and services. And that's why you see in the title the issue of e-governance and financial inclusion. The third one is the issue of skills. To develop skills, and we deal with a lot of capacity building, and we think it is important to bring these three parameters together. Today, we talk about smart cities as if cities exist on their own. I would rather talk about smart people, smart communities, smart cities, and a smart world. Because there is nowhere where you go and you don't find ICT footprint today. We say that there are 3.2 billion people who are not using the internet. But is it because there is no coverage? Or is it because they are just not using because they don't afford it? Or is it because they don't have the skill sets to use? So we are here to debate these issues and to share with you a project which has been developed by ArcTel, for ArcTel and the world, and which is seeking to reach out to incorporate villages, establish smart villages to make sure that government services reach the ordinary man and woman on the ground and make a difference. Financial inclusion is one of the big topics. Climate change, mitigation, and adaptation is one of the issues. Food security is also a fundamental principle. Disaster risk reduction is a key element because 90% of disasters are weather-related. That's why we have to focus on climate change. Environmental protection is a fundamental principle because we know environmental degradation will compromise the environment. After that has happened, it will threaten food security, it will threaten human lives. So I would like to welcome you again and to say that at the end of this, those from the private sector should ask themselves whether this is not the project or initiative that they should put their dollars on. And those from governments, they should ask themselves, shouldn't we also replicate this and draw a lesson from this particular project? Those from academia and scientific community could also participate by ideas, smart villages, smart communities, smart cities. And I think this is very important. So I would like, with these few words, to ask Philippe to make the first presentation, and it will be automatic. He will hand over to colleagues, and after that, we will open the floor for discussions, questions, and any contributions you may have. Philippe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Cosmos, for your nice words. Today we'll try to do something a little bit different from the usual. We're going to share, the three of us are going to share the same presentation. Basically, those two people there, those two experts, they will be the ones to give you all the knowledge. I'll just be some kind of an entertainer and try to share with you the ArcTel perspective regarding the achievement of these goals, so driven innovation and its impact in smart governance and finance management systems. So by saying that, what I'll start to do is to ask you, or encourage you to ask yourselves this simple question. Would you be the same person that you are today? Will be doing the same things that you're doing today, your profession, your skills, your hobbies, if you had the same kind of access to the internet 30 years ago? I mean, not only the speed of the access or the broadband access, I'm talking about the content. The things that you can today look into the internet, would they or would they not change your future? And that's one of the things I want to show you today. We're going to make a presentation based on 3 real life cases where people had their dreams, and thanks to the internet, and more than that, thanks to the use of ICTs, their dreams may become true. They probably have changed a little bit, but due to that, they achieved their own goals. And so that's something that I will encourage you to think about it during the presentation, and to ask yourselves if the access and the content that you have access today, if you had that same opportunity 30 years ago, if it will change your lives or not. So, regarding today presentations, and the presentations, as I said, will focus on smart governance and finance management systems. Before we achieve that, there is a long way to go, and that's what we will try also to share with you from my perspective, the ArcTel perspective. We will try to share with you what are the basic foundations that enable governments and people and the private sector to benefit from ICT. We're gonna share that based on 2 simple principles. One is broadband access, broadband internet access, and the other one is the universalization and use of ICT. Basically, what just Cosmos has told. So, saying this, I'll pass to my colleague Nuno. We'll start the presentation and give you all the information, and then I'll come back with the real-life stories that I want to share with you.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. Okay. It is working, microphone? I think so. Okay, this joint presentation is organized in 3 parts. In first part will be more theoretical. We are going to talk about general frameworks, one about smart cities and another on emerging technologies. So the focus will be in smart cities and emerging technologies. Then second part will be case studies on smart cities, and we are going to talk in a very concrete case about infrastructure and connectivity. And then we move for the last part of this presentation. The presentation is more empirical analysis, the impact assessment of smart governance, the micro, meso, and macro aspects of the economic impact that Ibrahim, my colleague, will talk about in this presentation. Moving to the next slide, please. So the aim of this presentation is to present the urbanization challenges, the smart city concept for addressing these challenges, case studies on smart cities, smart city index, and the impact of smart governance, the economic impact of smart governance. So we have 7 sections. The first one called it challenges. What are the most prominent urbanization challenges? We'll try to answer to this question. The second section is propagation. How can smart cities be scaled up? Then we move to the fourth section, emerging technologies. How can emerging technologies transform cities? And the next sections will be smart indicators. How can smart cities performance be measured? And economic impact will be the next one. What will be the economic impact of smart cities? And then the last section will be the conclusions, what is most important to be retained from this presentation. So, according to the Agenda 2030, to address the sustainability challenges that we have for the next 15 years, we should address these 17 challenges or sustainable development goals. This agenda includes a specific goal, Goal 11, for addressing the urbanization problems. That is called Sustainable Cities and Communities. UNU recognized for the first time in 1975 the need to have sustainable human settlements. So it creates a foundation called Habitat to address these problems of urbanization. And at that time, 2/3 of population were still rural. In the next year, in 1976, Habitat organized the first conference to define and set some targets to be achieved in the next 20 years. Since then, Habitat is organizing every 20 years a conference to measure the progress in human sustainable settlements and to set new targets. In 1996, the second conference of Habitat, it was before the change of millennium, and it were defined targets to be included in the Millennium Development Goals. In the last year, it was organized the Habitat Conference, and it was defined its new urban agenda, which is a kind of complement to the Goal 11. Is one plan of action to achieve sustainable cities and communities, and also allows to align the sustainable cities with the strategic plans of the countries. The next slide is just to show some predictions about the urbanization and how this urbanization challenge is increasing. The predictions show that the world population to 2100 will be 11.2 billions. We could see also at the top right side that we have a graph with the world population by region, and most of the population growth will be on Asia and Africa, mainly in Africa. Another curious aspects of these predictions are that half of the growth will be only on 8 countries. that are India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, United States of America, Indonesia, and Uganda. So these 8 countries will have half of population growth. So another picture of the urbanization challenges is that cities occupy approximately 2% of the whole land. However, 70% of the economy is produced on cities. Over 60% of global energy consumption are in cities. 70% of green gas emissions are also in cities. And 70% of global waste are also in cities. Although the urbanization challenges are there, we also have advantages of having high density on cities, high population densities in cities, because they can bring efficiency, technological innovation, and also reduce resource and energy consumption. Because we are more close, more proximity, reduce the mobility, and that reduce also the consumptions. Cities become a driving force and as well a source of development, and with the power of changing and improving the lives of citizens. Next one, please. Now, the next question is, how can smart cities be scale up? Next one. Okay. Smart cities is one approach to deal with these integrative challenges of urbanization, and they are being used all over the world. And since modern history, urbanization models have been a major driver of development and poverty reduction. And governments are adopting this concept of smart cities to address the urbanization challenges and also the sustainability challenges. What is smart cities? A simple way of explaining what is a smart city is a smart city is the management of urban environment through ICTs, but conducting involving all stakeholders and with the collaboration and participation of all stakeholders. What does its implementation means? Means smart economy, or if we replace the smart by better, a better economy, a better environment, a better governance, a good governance, better mobility, better or a knowledgeable people, and more quality of life. So smart cities are mapping the world and the road to a sustainable development. Being aware of the importance of this concept of smart cities, United Nations University Unity on Electronic Governance is our unity, based on Guimarães, Portugal. Developed a vision for smart cities to spread the smart cities at different levels, not only at local municipal level, but also country level, region level, or international level. And the way UNUEGOV sees smart sustainable cities is the cross route between two major domains: digitalization, urbanization, and sustainability. So to reach sustainable and smart cities, we need to deal with these three domains. So if you want to have a smart city solution, we have at least the intersection of two of these three domains. We could use the digitalization to address an urbanization problem, using digitalization to address a sustainability problem, or achieving sustainability, improving urbanization issues, or achieving sustainability using digitalization to address an urban issue problem. Next slide, please. Now we have a conceptual framework that could be a useful tool for decision makers, governments, officials, managers that want to implement new smart cities initiatives. This framework shows at the bottom two spider graphs. One is the initial status of the city in all domains, in all smart city domains, mobility, governance, economy, and so on. And the blue line shows what are the level in each domain. And after applying this framework, this transformational process, we achieve the second graph that shows that the red line, the improvement of the city in all domains of the smart city. This framework has 4 components. The first component is the input, and the input has the elements of technology and tools that will be applied in the transformational process. Then we go to the context. Before implementing a smart city solution, it's very important to know the local conditions, to know the values, to know the drivers, what are the local challenges, what are the risks, where it is located, in which regions, the neighborhoods. So to know very well the local conditions and then adjust the solution to the local conditions. And then we have the component that it is called the transformation. That have the approaches. We could use top-down approach, bottom-up approaches, a mix of both, involve all stakeholders, use an appropriate governance model, and use the maturity models to see the maturity of the city at all levels, infrastructures, human resource, and so on. This component has the tools to help make the transformation, the city, and achieving the desired outcomes. And outcomes will be innovations, will be benefits in all domains of smart city. Some advices and recommendations that should be taken into account before scale-up smart cities. It is important to have municipal capability, change the organizational and cultural way of working with digital innovation, have a strong digital leadership within municipalities, and what are the recommendations related to regarding these requirements? Develop a municipal digital governance, strengthen city collaboration with multiple stakeholders. We need also to have investment certainty. So we need to create a strategy that creates demand for digital solutions. Assign also a national leadership for smart cities. Develop a national smart city vision, a strategy, and implementation roadmap for cities, counties, states, regions, villages, and so on. We need also skills and research. We need to ensure digital education, And digital education should be related with business, not entertainment, not games, and create national research frameworks. Public acceptance and digital literacy, and we should address the citizens' concerns. And the last but not the least, sharing of data. Release meaningful data quickly and demonstrate its value. Is not just open raw data, but we should release data in a meaningful way and collaborate with standards. So it is necessary to clarify standards and have regulations to share data. And now I will pass the floor to Philip.
Okay, let me just thank you very much for that.
Please switch off your mic, the last person.
Yeah, thank you very much for that great presentation. I will be leaving to go to another activity, but what I just want to say is that for us to be successful, I think it is important for all these initiatives to take into account new and emerging technologies. One being big data, the second one being Internet of Things, and the third one being artificial intelligence. And it is easy to do that. We can collect the data is already available, and the problem that we have is an overload of data. Too much data, and out of which we have to extract and come out with the smart data, which we can use, analyze, and then do visualization and be able to interpret and make decisions on the basis. Now, having said that, I think I should emphasize that the commitment that ITU has in supporting the work of ArcTel. ArcTel is our partner. We are working on a number of initiatives, and we will continue to work on those initiatives. And one of them is on the digital agenda for ArcTel member countries. And we are going to replicate that to other members. The United Nations University is our partner. We signed recently just an agreement on developing e-waste indicators. And we are keen on that because that is very critical for us to drive into the next generation of development, which is the smart generation. And I would like also to mention that ITU is a leader in developing globally acceptable indicators. So we are developing indicators for sustainable development goals in order for us to measure and to benchmark. We are developing indicators for the WSIS, and then we develop a matrix, and we are developing indicators for various development-oriented initiatives, including smart communities and smart cities. So one great thing is that our governing council a week ago decided that our statistics should be available for free under the United Nations Open Data Policy. So please feel free to visit our site, to download, and to participate in our expert groups. We have two expert groups. One is expert group on telecommunications indicators, and the second one is expert group on households. So it brings together the national statistical offices and the regulatory authorities. And out of that, we'll be able to generate authentic and credible data, which can be used for interpreting and also making decisions, private sector making decisions on investment opportunities, but governments in addressing gaps in terms of development. With this, I thank you very much, and I apologize, I have to leave. I have to go to attend another session, but you are in good hands, and Philip is going to take over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cosmas, and thank you for your contribution to this panel. Always very welcome and very wise. So as you can see, now I'm the guy that makes all the questions. So I started by asking you at the beginning, what will your lives be if you have access to the internet as we have today, and especially to your content. And now the next questions are, can smart cities solve the problem of development, and can people improve just because they live in a smart city? And another question we can formulate is that do people have to move to smart cities or to big cities in order to improve? That's something we don't believe in ArcTel. And so basically what you've been heard from Nuno, and you can go to the next slide, is how do we have to build smart cities? So we took his knowledge and we took his experience and the United Nations University experience and tried to apply it in a smaller scale. And that's where we cross with the lives of these three young people. One from South America, his name is Joseph. The other one from Africa, whose name is Naomi, and another one from South Asia, whose name is Mary. The names are, of course, made up because we have privacy data protection within our regulations. So basically their stories are very simple. I mean, at the age of 5, Joseph, his dream was to become an astronaut. Naomi wanted to become a dancer, and Mary wanted to become a teacher. So basic and very simple dreams that young people have in their minds, as most of us should have when we were at their age. But they live in different conditions. They don't have access to internet, all of them. And the nearest school is 15 kilometers for Joseph, 120 kilometers for Naomi, and 40 kilometers for Mary. And what we'll try to do is to show you that even living in such rural places or remote places from the big centers, the big decision centers where the investments are made, where all the decisions are taken, those 3 children, they were able to fulfill their dreams. We don't know yet if their dreams will be those that they were dreaming when they were that age, but they will achieve something, and that's the story I want to tell you and I want to share with you. The projects of SV4D, and I will go into that in a second, are already being deployed in Mozambique, one of the members of ArcTel, and just recently we had the confirmation that we are going to deploy also in Cape Verde and São Tomé. So hopefully the members will start to follow, and in a few years we will have a sustainable village for development in all those countries. Next slide. What's wrong? Is it going to explode?
No, it's not going to explode. It's
Okay.
just about to go to sleep.
Okay. That's why I'm trying to avoid that they go to sleep. Okay, so these are the SDG, as Nuno has mentioned a few minutes ago. And again, me, the question guy, my question here is try to understand what is our vision. And going back to the beginning of the presentation, when Nuno presented the 17 SDGs, there should be a question there. And the question is, what is the link between all these SDGs? And we have a very own vision about it in ArcTel. And so based on 2 simple concepts, we created the SV4D project. Those concepts are the same that I addressed at the beginning of my intervention: access to broadband internet and universalization of the use of ICT. And so based on that, we developed the SV4D concept. And what it is? Very simple. So the initiative is to deploy in the 9 different countries of CPLP, which is the Portuguese-speaking countries community. They are spread in 4 of the 5 regions of ITU. We have members in Asia, we have members in Africa, where most of the members are, and also have members in Latin America, namely Brazil, and in Europe, which is Portugal. So the initiative is very simple. It's to create a network of living labs in these 9 different countries of the world and regions of the world. And those online laboratories or living labs will be driven to R&D on ICT solutions, but just focus on the local problems. So basically, we're not going to import any solution. What we're going to try to find out is understand their local problems and help them to develop solutions based on ICT and guide them in order to use the best solutions. And so I used to say that this is a project that's for the people, but it's developed by the people as well. So we're not going to import anything, we're going to develop everything on the ground. And basically what we're going to do is to find existing services that can be applied to the local problems or develop new service. And always focus on e-services and taking advantage of ICT. So if you could summarize in terms of concept what we have, you can change that. We're going to use big data, and we just heard Cosmos addressing the importance of data and the way we work data, and Nuno as well has told us that. We're going to use those different 9 living labs and different spots to collect all the data that we can, and then work on it in order to analyze weather and climate changes, agriculture, pollution, diseases tracking, and symptomatic surveillance, vital statistics, and among others. The sky is the limit. You can pretty much understand this, the amount of data that you can take, and the advantage that you can take from that. And so this is one of the basic concepts of the project as well. To summarize the goals. We want to promote universal access to broadband communications and ICT, as I told in the beginning. Deploy a large scale of pilot projects to support different needs in those rural communities. And then what we're going to do, we're going to use the different living labs in order to make some kind of a accelerated concept proof of the applications that might be developed. Just a quick example regarding Mozambique, for instance. One of the places where the project is going to be deployed, they have a major problem with floodings. And the way they try to avoid the impact of those floods when the raining season comes is to have people monitoring along the river the size of the tide. And when it reaches a certain limit, they call the village, and they sound the alarm in order to people to evacuate. This is something that ICT can easily tackle. Just with a couple of $2 sensors, you can deploy those sensors in the river, and with just a normal programmer guy, you can deploy a simple app that will send an SMS message to all the village, and so with that you can early get people saved, and you can save lives and properties and everything. So again, the objectives, the goals: deploy a large scale of pilot projects to support different needs on rural communities, support capacity building and deployment of services, create a fast-track concept, as I told you, for testing and development of technology that can improve the quality of life in those communities, promote entrepreneurship and job creation. As I said, all the projects that will be deployed there, they will be owned either by the government or by the people that present or to come up with the ideas. That will be totally for them. Promote or enable new regulatory models. Just to give you an example, in Mozambique as well, one of the ideas is to monitorize the use of the internet, because in those places where we're going to deploy the project, we're going to give free access to internet to the people there. And so basically people will be able to use the internet as their own will. So what we're going to do is to understand how do they use the internet. Is that 80% for pleasure and 20% for work? And so based on that, we can then build new regulatory models in order to enforce the operators to differentiate price, for instance, in terms of the access to the internet. If people are using the internet to use e-services, to access a governmental portal, to ask for a declaration in the local municipality, whatever you name it, they should not be charged, because that's what's going to empower them in order to use ICT in a proper way, if I may use the expression, of course. And last and not least, of course, and it's linked to this last thing that I said, is to promote the use of eGov, I guess. So quickly, to give you an overview, how does it work, this SV4D concept. So basically we'll have an infrastructure, a communication infrastructure, because without communications there's not possible to deploy any of these projects. And then beneath that infrastructure, we're going to being able to deploy different projects in different areas or different sectors, from health to culture and education. And those symbols are just some examples of the projects that have already been deployed and that can be used as an example here, although I'm not going into them into detail. If you have any questions, you can then address them to me. Next. So, the infrastructure is called YBAC. It has already been deployed in Africa, in Europe, and in South America. It's very efficient and with high quality of service. It took us a long time to pick up the right technology because, as you know, in these areas, normally the weather conditions and the environmental conditions are very tough, and so we had to ensure that we have the best quality of equipment to build that infrastructure that will enable us to have low costs in terms of operation costs, and also in terms of investment costs. This is also very interesting because it's a very low cost of investment. In terms of technical requirements or technical indications, it goes up to 200 megabits and has less than 2 millesime seconds of latency. It can reach a maximum of 200 kilometers, square meters. It's a total area that we can reach with one infrastructure. It's self-managing and in terms of backhaul network, and it works in a license with free spectrum. It enables access to WLAN, 3G, 4G, and FM and radio. Next one. So as I was saying, we choose this technology very carefully because, as you can see here, it's a very easy system to use. It's a plug-and-play system. There's no rocket science beyond this system. It's very easy to install. It's very easy to use. It's auto-configuration. It's usable for everyone, as we could test it. It's also sustainable because it's solar powerable and it's very reliable. In terms of cost efficiency, it's low capex and low opex, as I told you before. Demands little need of technical expertise. It's a self-healing system, and if you want to know about that in detail, I then direct you to the owners to explain that. It's a very low power consumption that allowed us to use solar energy, and you can use a license-free spectrum. In terms of quality, it's very reliable, and due to its auto-configuration, it's very high quality of service. The hardware is very reliable as well, and it's got high quality conditions that can enable you to have video streaming, VoIP, etc. So, in resume, what we're trying to do with SV4D is to build knowledge, because that infrastructure will enable us to promote knowledge and to deploy e-services, build citizenship, and build entrepreneurship, because one of the main goals of this project is to enable people to come to us, present their problems, their solutions as well, and we will try to adapt the problems and the solutions in a ICT point of view in order to enable them to start a business. And for simply, and you'll see that on the end of this presentation with the sharing of the story of these 3 children that we saw just a few minutes ago, we believe that this can be done through ICT. And to prove that, at the end of the presentation, we will see what was the success of those 3 children. Nuno?
Okay, me again. My micro. Quer repeat? Sorry. Emerging technologies have the potential of transforming cities into smart cities. And as Cosmos said before, we have very promising emerging technologies like big data, artificial intelligence, IoT, Internet of Things, blockchain. In our Unity, we want to know what are the potential benefits and try to predict what will be the result of using these emerging technologies in a smart city context. And for that, we developed a framework that I'm going to explain to you in the next slide. Internet of Things, can you go back, please? It's not. Internet of Things is becoming a pervasive technology that is anywhere in any service. And we could see that the technology evolves towards the society needs, but the smart cities and the technologies on smart cities also evolve according to the technologies, and the solutions are adapted to the existing technologies. So there is a common point where the Internet of Things evolves and the smart city evolves in the same direction. And in the future, we will have Internet of Things in all smart city dimensions, economy, mobility, and so on. On the other end, we have also the blockchain. It's a brand new technology that has the potential of being a disruptive technology in the future that could provide secure transactions, smart contracts without involvement of a third trusted party. And could change the way citizens interact with the governments and how the services are supplied. Maybe I call that chain of things, that in the future we have a chain of things, of secure things, that could be called COT. But these are one of my ideas. So, okay, next slide. Here, before applying these emerging technologies in a smart city context, it is important to be aware of the level of maturity of the emerging technologies. We see that in this slide that IoT maturity, in terms of technology, not in the usage, but in terms of functionalities, is a more mature technology. We are in the level of integration, interoperability of different IoT systems. The last level of maturity will be personalized services, where the services will be adjusted to the profile of the user. Whereas blockchain is in the first step of maturity. It is being used as a cryptocurrency to make secure transactions, money transactions, payments, and so on. But there is some national projects to develop services with blockchain, and we have a long path to go, a long way to go to achieve the same maturity that we have with IoT. Next slide. Knowing the importance of the emerging technologies on smart cities, and all countries try to be always ahead in terms of using of technologies, we developed explanatory and predictive framework to see what are the potential benefits of two emerging technologies, IoT and blockchain. And these frameworks has 4 components. One is the context. We need to adjust always the framework to the local context. The management, how the process, transformational process will be managed, and the capabilities. We need also capabilities to transform, to make the process. And of course, it only benefits if we also accomplish the premises of SDGs. So the main objective is always to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. We have below in the slide 2 examples of the use of the IoT and blockchain. IoT is being used in a variety of situations. Here we have this smart energy. And the IoT is being used in smart energy for monitoring and control the energy consumption of houses. And we have also for blockchain smart transportation for autonomous transportation. Next slide, please. We make a research study to see what are the potential benefits for citizens and cities of IoT and blockchain. And for IoT, for instance, it is being used for assisting living object identifications. We have an example for visual people, blind people, that could be more independent, go shopping to a supermarket with a stick with RFID readers and could navigate through the supermarket with a GPS, with one application on its smartphone that converts in words what are the products in the supermarket, the temperature, the price, and so on. Another example of the benefits for citizens for blockchain. Dubai has one national strategy to develop blockchain and is investing a lot in this technology. And they have 3 priorities in this strategy. The first one is to have a more efficient government. The second is to create new industries based on blockchain. And the third priority is to create a platform between partners in Europe, Asia, and America. For the city, we also have benefits. For instance, we could use IoT in smart lights. In Kitchener, Canada, in the last year, they invest a lot in lights, in LED lights, to reduce the energy consumption and to have revenue, because people also could produce energy. In Spain, for instance, they are using IoT to build urban resilience for detecting, for instance, river floods, forest fires, and so on. Yes, we could move to the next slides. Now I will pass the floor to my colleague Ibrahim, that will talk about smart indicators and the impact of smart cities on economy.
Yeah. If there are any questions to respond the first 2 speakers. Okay, then I will continue. Oh, wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a question, but it's more general.
Sorry, you have to switch off.
Okay. So it's more general about the whole project of smart cities and sustainable development. What is it? I don't know if there's any, or if it's been taken into consideration, like that there is ethnic group of people or indigenous people, First Nations, that might not want actually to be engaged into the internet community or the technology-based society. And how can we develop into these smart cities without actually transgressing or constraining their environment in a homeostasis or like in a equilibrium, so we don't like transgress their sovereignty or autonomy.
If I understood, it's inclusion. It's about inclusion. How to include these all ethnies. I can say my opinion. The technology could be transparent. They could be there, and the people don't see it. And could be working autonomously in a transparent way and an efficient way without the interaction of the human being. So we don't need to have always interaction of the user with the technology. The technology could be there, and the users don't interact with the technology. Okay.
Just adding to that, so this is not like a macro level program that seeks to actually change the way of living of other people, because like bringing these new technologies to maybe rural communities that are traditional in other sense, like how can you actually allow people to fulfill their potential, like becoming an astronaut, becoming whatever they want to become, but without making this like an imposition? Like how can you actually have that like allow them to do that?
Right, boss. She's very bossy. That's what I was saying. The goal of this project, and I'm now talking because we have two different realities here, right? What they're doing, they're just showing you how the world, the developed world works, or where the big cities are, where the smart concept is all around you, and you cannot avoid that. It's like the Matrix, right? You're living there, you're there. There's nothing you can do. What I was trying to show you is the opposite side, is that take advantage of ICT and technology and use it just for the benefit and only for the local benefit and the local needs. So when you're saying that, how can you do that without trespassing the indigenous positions or their beliefs or whatever? If they don't want to, they don't need to. The only thing we're trying to do is to understand local challenges and problems and show them that there is a way that they can overcome that through technology. And that doesn't mean that they have to have a smartphone or to have a laptop or to be measuring the number of times they pass through the river with Wi-Fi. It doesn't mean that. It means that, for instance, and you have several projects like that already in place. For instance, the small local producers, like farmers in certain countries in Africa, they have been profiting from ICT without being so into it. The only thing they have is a simple phone where they receive a text message with the price of the goods in the market. So when they sell their goods to the local retailers, they know the price that they should sell it, and they will not be ripped off. That's one of the benefits of receiving a text message. So I mean, they are not being. It's not aggressive. If I may understand, your point is like the aggressiveness of ICT when we're looking at the big picture, like they're showing. Antennas everywhere, smartphones, monitoring everything. It's a mess. Of course, if you take an Indian guy from the Amazon jungle, for instance, and just let him go into the wild, for him the real wild is in São Paulo, in the concrete jungle, he'll freak out. No, that's not the point. The point here is to help them to understand that ICT can solve small daily problems. We are not expecting to have a Google car in the middle of a rural area in the north of Mozambique. No, what we want to ensure is that at least that little kid or that woman or guy has access or has the opportunity to have access to the same opportunities that we have in the big cities or in a smart city. So that's the point.
So thank you very much. I will continue this analysis by giving you three main aspects that I would like to deliver. The first aspect is that we would like to see the connection between micro, meso, and macro level. Much of the discussion today, you have been seeing, case study, you have been seeing the framework of analysis, but how can we pull up the cases into more aggregated view, such a way that this is an understanding that can be brought up at country level, and how to convince country that this is very, very important topic. Secondly, much of discussion we have is about spending money, about things. That we invest things in smart city, in all technology that allow us to be more developed is good thing, but that's from costing side. And that's something we have to convince member state, us, myself from Indonesia, and probably all of you from Africa, that in addition to this costing side, there is something that we can benefit from this, indirectly with education and directly with other aspects that link to economic indicator. And lastly, I will be talking about more empirical analysis on how things can be evaluated, that this is not only spending money, but you can see from the empirical analysis that something come up from the investment. Next. All right, so the first task that we have to do is actually we have to collect several indicators of smart city that has been available in the literature, and we try to understand where are we in the context of previous studies. As we see here, there are probably more than 13, but what we have been collecting is 13 most indicators that can be used to portray the progress of smart city, the smartness of the city in the world. So we can see indexes which are a product of international organization, the World Bank, for instance, OECD, ITU. There are also some indexes which are part of national policy that probably can be adopted in one particular country, but probably it has some limitation if we want to copy it for other countries. So more context specific. So next. So in that sense, there are two aspects that we have to take into consideration when we want to decide which index should be adopted, what index should be used to introduce smart city or smart development or smart government in the country. The first aspect is smartness, and the second aspect is universality. Now, if you look into some smart city national program in Taiwan, for instance, or in Singapore, in Dubai, there are many indicators which are dealing with smartness, but very, very detailed. If I want to bring this in the context of my country, Indonesia, or probably some of you from Nigeria, we will not be able to collect the same data to compare and to see the progress of the smartness of the city or country. So we have to negotiate. We have to compromise with this. We have to compromise with this to end up with one particular indicator that can capture differences across countries, can be capturing the state of differences among countries, but also having smartness, some kind of indicators that can capture the smartness of the city or country. Next. And then we end up with this. We try to collect, several possible indicators that have been available. And UNUGov, as part of our responsibility to offer member states with some kind of understandings, indicator that can be used to portray the progress of smart city, we end up with 8 elements, 8 indicator that can be used, that can be translated into policies. For instance, sustainable urban planning, resource management, multimodal access, infrastructure, entrepreneurship and innovation, local and global connection, inclusion and health. Of course, you may argue that these aspects are not enough to capture the smartness of the city. But then if we are talking about comparison between 153 countries in our study, this is the indicator we can offer you to portray where are you in the parade of nations in the achievement of smart city in the world. Next. So here we are. We are now at the empirical analysis on what we have been collecting so far and what have been analyzing so far to compare countries based on the achievement of smart city index or smart country index. It's very consistent that big countries, more developed countries, they are able to achieve better indicators, better aspect in all smart city indicator, simply because they have greater fiscal capacity to finance all aspect. They have better public infrastructure, for instance. They have better engagement of public sector. They have better, inclusion, health facilities, education, which is more straightforward. But quite interestingly, quite interestingly, if we look at the transition of smart cityness or smartness of the city or country, then the variation is really big. For instance, while health probably not major issue in many countries, R&D activities is clearly distinguishing one country against another. Countries like United States, like Japan, Scandinavian countries, EU28, they have a very big chunk of budget spent for R&D. While we are, for developing countries, we are still struggling to find money, to find a small chunk in our budget to spend our R&D activities. And that's why if we look at our smartness, R&D and innovation is one aspect that we are lacking, that the gap is very big between us in developing world and those countries in more developed countries. Next. If we try to simplify the progress in regional disparities, which is quite interesting that developing countries are actually still leading with regards to natural resources, which is quite understandably, because we have less industrialization, we have less manufacturing activities, which means that we have less emission, we have less CO2 emission, we have better conservation in our nature. And that's why if we look into this, less developed countries, lower income countries, southern hemisphere, we are better in conserving natural resources. But on the other hand, on the other side of coin, we are lacking with regards to more modern indicator, more smart indicator that should allow us to be more productive. Inclusion, education, R&D, innovative capabilities, transportation, we are all lacking behind compared to other compared to other developed countries. So in that sense, if some takeaways that you can bring back home, probably that to understand the position of our nation with regard to smartness, it doesn't mean that country like Indonesia, we have to transform ourselves to be like Dubai, because we are still, there are many aspects, necessary and sufficient condition that should be solved first before we can leapfrog to the next stage of the smartness of the country. And that should be acknowledged, that with regards to the capacity of the countries, while we are lagging behind with regards to transportation, for instance, smart transportation, but we are having a decent level of achievement in natural aspect, smart sustainable development, sustainable urban planning, and resource management. Next. Okay, so next. So most of our discussion that we have had now is all talking about the cost center. Okay, it's always understandable. If you are smart, if you are smarter, you are better. If you are more modern, you are better. But we are talking about one side of the balance sheet. If you are a company, we are talking about spending side. Like my country, Indonesia, other countries from African region, one single cent of money has opportunity cost. One single cent of money can be spent to leverage those unfortunate people with education, with health, with the access to what banking system that cannot be replaced by other things unless we can convince government that this is really fruitful investment. That's what I'll be talking about this time. So, with the result that we have collected from Smart City Index or Smart Country Index, we try to correlate the Smart Country Index with UN eGov Index to see whether our result is consistent. We try to get the conformity that we find something similar to what is already done by other institutions. And we can see here that the correlation 95%, meaning that our smart country indicator are reflecting what is actually going on in the country characteristic. So next, so the question will be, what will be the impact if we achieve better governance? What will be the impact if we achieve smarter governance? All right. So not only about spending money, but also expecting what will be the impact that can be achieved by country by spending money to be smarter. one aspect which is very important for us, developing region, is related to what is called as the shadow economy. The shadow economy is all economic activities which are not recorded by national income calculation, so that it will minimize the capacity of the country. So for instance, in a family, you have household income 100, but you don't realize that your wife actually keep 50 euro under the table, never telling you that they have money. You know what? The impact will be that you seems to be, you know, needing more loan for other countries, while in fact you can self-finance your project, you can self-finance your education sector. And this aspect is very interesting, because I will offer you what will be the impact if country spending money to make their system smarter. What will be the impact for shadow economy? Next. Okay, what I'm talking about shadow economy here is all aspect which are escaping from national income calculation. So there are many aspects that can be captured, but one thing that we measure here is only the formal sector, right? So we are not talking about prostitution, for instance, which is, by the way, is becoming a legal economic activities in Italy based on, you know, some progress and some development in national income accounting. Prostitution is becoming national legal activities. I mean, calculated in national income. But what we are talking is next is more about the lower level of the calculation. So all formal sector which are escaping from the current calculation. Right? So we understand that the reason why they are escaping is because very high administrative burden cost. You know, like for instance, in our case, for instance, at UNUIGOV, we have a case study in Madagascar saying that to register your land ownership, it can take years. In Indonesia as well, if you want to go for registering your company, it might take several months or days at least. In Sweden, if you want to register your company, you can take only 20 minutes and you can start your company right after. And that will motivate you to be more formal. That motivates you to be under the radar, because you don't have anything to hide. You don't have anything to motivate you to be informal, because becoming formal is a good thing. You are, you know, you can help by the system, you can help by the scheme of EU28, you can help by all schemes under Horizon 2020 that can help you with income, with finance to funding and etc. That aspect is still very lacking with us in developing countries. Next. Now, why this topic is very interesting? Because there are many bad things that can be resulted from growing size of shadow economy. You know, it will force you to ask for debt, while in fact you can actually finance your public finances. It will decrease your competitiveness, your openness, your innovative capabilities. It will for sure erode your tax basis, because in fact you can actually have higher tax revenue, but because the activities are not recorded, you will get lower tax revenue. Yes, simply as simple as eroding your tax capacity. Next, and the worst of the worst is actually this is very chronicle. I can tell you this is very chronicle. It means that when you delay your policy to reduce the shadow economy, it will be even more difficult for us to tackle the problem. So the more we delay the process, the more the policy is implemented to cope with this problem, the more difficult for us to tackle. And I can empirically show you why this is happening. So this is very interesting for us, for you, for us. Look, we actually can we imagine that actually we have more than 1 billion money currently in our economy in less developing countries that are not spent yet, that can be actually been used for education and health. Two aspects which serve as the most important leverage in the capacity, in the innovative capabilities of the country. The reason is this money is not recorded by the country. The money is there, but it's never been recorded. So assume that, for instance, my country, Indonesia, we have more money collected from tax revenue, we'll be able to build more public education, better public education, better health system. But because the money is not there, we cannot collect the money from the citizen because they are escaping from the calculation. Next. Right. Yeah. Our underspending is one of the issue that we show you before, that this is one aspect we are lacking from developed countries. And again, country like Mexico, Indonesia, we can actually spend more money, but the money is not there. The money is not recorded. So imagine what the strategic position of solving the problem of informality. Next. Now, this is the figure of African countries. Quite unfortunate that most of you have been living, but actually I give you a profile of all sub-Saharan Africa to show you the severity of shadow economy in the region. You know, it can up to 70% of all economic activities. Can you imagine that you can actually generate almost double of your current GDP? Of your current tax revenue, just because they are not calculated, then you are not able to generate the money in the national fiscal, the fiscal of your company, and that can be translated into potential money that can be spent country by country for education and health. Look, it can reach up to 5 billion in one country. You know, it's very big money that actually there, the potential money that can be generated. Next. All right, so the question is again, how can ICT, how can smart government be a mitigator in this problem? And next, and this is our analysis. I just keep it because it's very common for everybody here that we use the EGDA index from UNDESA, which is 1/3 of, you know, online service index, telecom index, and human capital index. Next. Yeah, as we mentioned, and you already know about this, that human capital index comprising all aspects in education outcome. Next. And then the framework of analysis is that when you spend your money to increase your capacity in smart government, it will reduce administrative burden costs and it will result lower shadow activities. Next. You know, even in European countries, we are still struggling with the size of administrative burden costs. It can be up to 6% in some European countries. It can be up to 5% at least. You can imagine how big is it in our country. You know, in the UK, it can be up to 2% of GDP. Can you imagine how big is it in Uganda, in Mauritania, or Indonesia? It is a big number. It is a big value of money that can be internalized. Next. And this is the progress of the achievement in each African countries that I may show you later if you are interested in. Next. And this is what is the most important aspect in this presentation on empirical side, that when you are having better infrastructure, and also related to Philip's presentation, in fact that most of us in developing countries, we are still relying on the supply side. So provided you have better supply side telecom infrastructure, you can expect the reduction of shadow economy much better and much quicker. I'm not saying that the supply side is the only solution in this context, but in fact, empirical analysis shows that supply side variable plays a greater impact in reducing the size of the informality than demand side, while of course at the end the simultaneous, you know, cooperation between supply and demand are playing important role. Next. So that is supply side, that is the demand side, and the last one is the interaction between supply and demand. Next. However, like in all ICT studies, we have what is called at critical mass. Critical mass is the minimum requirement for us, that then we can expect the impact of ICT. I mean, it doesn't say that you spend something for ICT infrastructure and we can expect the result. But we have to achieve a decent level. You know, a minimum requirement that can allow us to get benefit from ICT. And that's the second stage of the analysis, to see how much is the minimum requirement for us to allow us getting the benefit from this investment. Next. Unfortunately, our empirical analysis shows that the minimum requirement is still very high. It's still out of the reach of most of the developing countries, because when we divided the analysis based on the country region and level of income, the result is only feasible for developed countries. Next. It means that by definition, you or us, we are in developing countries, at least we have to achieve 77% of internet users, 26% of broadband connection, 36% of fixed telephony, and 130% of mobile telephony. Even though probably for fixed telephony and mobile telephony, they're not really playing important role anymore. But internet connection and broadband subscription are really something we are still struggling. Indonesia probably still 40%. I don't know in any other countries, in Nigeria, in any other countries, probably still much less than 20%. Next. So this is the conclusion of the analysis. That we have been learning that digital transformation is important, emerging technologies are important, but something we have to realize that we come back home, we bring this as takeaways to our country. We have to convince government that this is not always about costing. We can estimate the impact. The impact is there, directly and indirectly. That's something important, because as I told you before, as developing countries, 1 single cent has opportunity cost. You either spend it for education, for health, or poverty eradication, or for broadband, or for telephony, or for fiber to the home. So we have to be really careful with spending, because otherwise this will be very, very long issue that we will be able to tackle. The impact is already there. I mentioned you before that this is more supply side problem as for today. So in developing countries, we are still struggling. We have to achieve a decent level of infrastructure development before we can reap the benefit from this initiative. The requirement is there. The critical mass is there. 77% of broadband is still quite difficult unless we have dedicated national broadband planning, something that most countries are still struggling with. And lastly, policies should be taken into consideration that, again that I told you, administrative burden costs, shadow economy are not jargon. This is real. And this is a real issue that we have to tackle. And more importantly, the long time we delay, the more difficult it will be solved. It's chronic problem. It's all like corruption. The longer time you delay, the more difficult the problem can be seen. So that's something we have to accentuate this as very real policy back home in our country.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Getting back to our story, do you remember the 3 children that I presented to you in the beginning, Joseph, Naomi, and Mary? So this is what happened to them. We monitorized their stories and the way they evolved during the past 10 years. And Joseph there, by the age of 10, he has had his first smartphone, and he started surfing on the web. At the age 16, after using or seeing a YouTube video, he got passionate by mechanics. And so he decided to apply to an online course. At the age of 20, he won a scholarship and went for a scholarship for mechanical engineer and moved to uni. Mary, by her side, she used the first tablet at the age of 10 and read the first book online, The Little Nurse. At the age of 16, she learned first ed techniques from a YouTube video that helped her to help her injured sister after a small fall. She started at the age of 20 an online course on nursing, created a blog for tech basic medical care for her community. And Naomi, that you remember wanted to be a dancer, she used the first laptop at the age of 12, earned a digital camera at the same time. And at the age of 18, she learned basic programming languages and created a website for promoting the local handicraft of their tribe. At the age of 24, she got access to a microcredit and upgraded the website for an e-commerce platform. So this is what happened with the story of these 3 children. 20 years after they had their dream and where they had access to the internet and to the use of ICT, they achieved this. And at the end of the day, they not became what they aspired to be. That's why I asked you the question at the beginning of this session. If we had access to the same content that we have today in the internet 30 years ago, it will be the same. It will have the same professions, the same hobbies, everything. So in our days, Joseph, he became a mechanic engineer at a mining company in Brazil. Mary, she's from Thailand, and she became a nurse, and she's now a nursing internship at the National Hospital. And Naomi, she's an entrepreneur of handicraft e-commerce platform owner. So as you can see, and that's the conclusion that we wanted to bring regarding the SV4D and the Sustainable Village project, is that without interfering in their lives and just enable them to have access to information, to use correctly ICTs, they can really change their lives. And so, as a conclusion for the question that we put it at the beginning of this session, is what is the link between all the SDGs? For me, it's crystal clear. It's communications, or at a more larger extent is ICT, which give us a higher responsibility. I mean, us that work in this sector, not only the ITU, but all the sector members and all the member states, because if we enable ICT to link all those SDGs, at the end of the day, the 2030 agenda will be fulfilled. That's my belief, at least. So I think this is the conclusion of our workshop. Of course, there's any questions, any comments, because we are not here just to share our knowledge. We are also here to learn from you guys. So if there are any comments, any conclusions, any outputs from that side, they're most welcome. Yes, please.
Thank you for your very comprehensive information during your workshop. Yes, I understand. Also, thank you for your comprehensive information during your workshops. I have two questions concerning to developing or setting up the smart cities. We mentioned about many aspects or factors to creating smart cities, but what the most important things are the key decisive factors or aspects for developing smart cities, technologies or investments or infrastructure, including ICT systems, transportation system, or all those things. And of course, there are already ICT infrastructures in many cities, but it is not mean that's enough to set up a so-called smart cities. So my question is that what the most important things are, the most decisive factors to setting up a smart cities. And the second question, that many people mentioned about smart cities like Singapore or somewhere in Taiwan or the other cities in Spain or the other the places. But it seems to be that most of this city is very small cities. So maybe people can understand that only small cities can reach the destinations, the smart cities. And what about the big cities? How they can solve the problem? Thank you.
Can we back to the presentation, please? Up to the slide, which showing the smart city index. Yeah, well, basically, that is very good question, and that's something that we really have taken into consideration. That at UNUEGov, we realized that smart city is or should be seen as context dependent. We cannot use a, one particular success point to be replicated to anywhere, like you mentioned as well. Singapore can be, very small city nation, and translating success story from Singapore to, for instance, Jakarta or Brasilia or Rio may not be a wise way to do. So that's why we presented here 8 elements that should be taken into consideration when we would like to develop our smart city, our city. And from that point, we can see in which aspect we are still lacking. Probably Thailand or other countries, I don't know you are from, you have something that based on 8 indicators we are still lagging behind. And in that sense, the importance of one indicator for one country is different. The importance of each variable is different country by country. So depending on your existing condition and the point that you would like to achieve. Like for instance, are you lacking with transportation or are you lacking with research and development? The capacity of citizen within the country, because smart city is not about supply side policies. It's not about giving citizen all machinery that they can work, but also engagement, but also the capacity for them to be good innovator, good entrepreneur, and that's more on demand side than supply side. So that question should be also be more retrospective on the strength and the weaknesses of the current situation in your city or in your country. Nuno will add something.
Yes, we don't believe in one solution fits all. In all our frameworks, we have always one component that is context. And that component is the adjustment that we make to the local conditions, and we make a readiness study to see what are the local conditions, what are the values, the principles, what are the drivers, what the city wants as a driver, if it's economic driver or other. The context is always one input for the solution. And the context will be used to adjust and to have a suitable solution. But the size, the smart city concept don't depend really of the size of the city. The concept could be applied to any dimension of the city. Of course, we need to be aware that is different to adjust one solution to one small scale. That's a big scale. But the concept is always the same, and the framework could be also applied to big cities.
Can we disagree? That's good. No, I totally agree with them, but there's one factor that I believe it's more crucial than the others, which is infrastructure. I mean, everything else you can work on it, but if you don't have access, if you don't have an infrastructure, I mean, it's not applicable. The smart concept, right? And the other thing is that. And here I agree with them. It's you have to look up to your goals and see what kind of smartness do you want, right? I'll give you a concrete example. In the ArcTel member countries, which basically are the Portuguese-speaking countries in the globe, one of the projects that we are now working with ITU is on smart harbors. Okay, and the reason is simple. The reason is that all those countries, they have strong relations with the sea, and the harbors are one of the most important infrastructures that those countries have in order to enlarge or empower their exportations and also the importations as well. And all those harbors needed to be updated, needed to be improved, and so they were selected to be one of the paths of the smartness that you want to include. So basically, they will be in cities, in major cities, in most of the capitals of those countries. Although we're not talking about smart cities, we're talking about smart harbors, which is just one layer of all the smartness that you can, put one up to the other into the concept of smart cities. So in order to give you a more political approach, I would say infrastructure is totally a plus. I mean, it's a need. Without infrastructures, there's no way you can build smart anywhere. And the other thing is to look on your potential, and then to that grid that Ibrahim was talking about, and see where do you want to go. What is your goal? What do you want to do? Do you want to empower startups? Do you want to empower exportations? Do you want to empower? You have to look at your profile and define what. Because the other thing, you might agree or not, it's impossible to be a smart overall concept to all sectors. That's what I believe. Because otherwise it will be too messy. Not even the biggest countries do that. I mean, the most developed countries, they choose certain sectors to implement smartness, right?
Thank you. I would like to thank for the wonderful presentation for the topics that have been touched on. But I do have 3 questions. Reading from the title of this topic, that's ICT-driven innovation and its impact on smart governance and financing management system, I was expecting to see during the presentation the coverage of the aspects of innovation and change on the structure of the governance at the national level, municipal level, or even at district level. I've seen aspects of innovation and technological, in the technological aspects, but I didn't see that much on the organizational aspects and the governance structure. I don't know if you can elaborate that much, a little bit on these aspects. The second one has to do with the financing. That's part of this. I'm coming from a developing country, from a Portuguese-speaking developing country. One of the problems that we face, and working on the ICTs for a while, that we face is how to have appropriate financing for the smart or ICT-related initiative. You can name it, mobile, e-government, all these buzzwords that we have been using for the last years. I didn't see a kind of approach on how the innovation, the model that you presented, influence the establishment or review on the financing approach to establish technological related innovation. I don't know if my questions are clear. Okay. So I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit more on these 2 aspects to see on the organizational change and impact and the innovation, and also on the financial aspect, because many of the developing countries do have already policies and strategy on this. The problem is the implementation, because there's still a problem within the government to equate and relate the impact of the technological change and the need of financing. What comes first and how can we do? I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
I can start with first question, then I pass the word to Ibrahim and to Philip. Smart governance is can be seen as one dimension of smart cities. If we want to have smart cities, we need to have a smart governance and all the principles that are behind smart governance, like transparency, accountability, participation, cooperation, and that principles have an impact on the organization. So that obliges to change the culture and the way the organizations are used to work. So it is related with smart governance, smart cities and smart governance. Of course, to have smart governance, we need to change to achieve the principles of good governance, smart governance. We need to change our organizational culture. Related to the financial aspects, Ibrahim is more competent than me.
All right. I just want to comment on why there is no analysis on organizational aspect, which to me not entirely true. Because when we try to assess the performance of governance, well, while there are many indicators that can be used, we rely on e-governance, EGDI index from UN data. And if you look at EGDI indicator, there are three aspects that can be extracted. The telecom infrastructure is pretty much supply side, the role of private sector and the role of government in some way. And then demand aspect, human capital index. And then the interaction and engagement is the online index. There you can see whether government is playing there you can see whether government has been playing well in mitigating the problem of engagement from people. So if you extract the component of e-government index, one indicator related to online index can be seen as the level of the smartness of the governments to respond the requirement, to respond the needs from citizens to be interacting. Of course, it's not enough, but this is something that we can use in this empirical analysis to capture 153 countries. In the the progress of eGov in 153 countries. I'm sure that a more detailed and a more elaborated country by country analysis will be better to answer your question. Secondly, about financing, is quite straightforward. Infrastructure is market driven in most countries. If there is no demand, companies will not want to invest. Like happened in my country, Indonesia, for instance. We have national broadband planning since 20 years ago, but that it never been implemented simply because we need something in a rural area with low demand, but no one want to invest. And that is something that we have to take into consideration, that it's always public private partnership, but how to maximize the collaboration, how to make benefit out from this collaboration is sometimes not easy, because companies want to invest only on market which where they can estimate the revenue stream, but while government wants to cover underserved area where no one want to invest. But the point I want to deliver here is that in this context of shadow economy, the financing aspect relates to the fact that actually you can have bigger fiscal capacity, and that from that fiscal capacity you can spend your money for other public expenses that is currently underserved. So in that aspect, the financing aspect is playing important role with regards to how to increase the capability of countries to spend on basic needs of citizens.
Just a small comment, if I may. One of the problems when you're talking about smart governance is, and this is my personal opinion, not ArcTel's opinion, is the level of engagement between the citizens and the government, right? And one of the things that we are trying to do with this SV4D project is to engage the local communities with ICT and also the local governments. One of the examples I gave there, I didn't went into detail, was our MOS, which is from Mozambique, was a technology, an app developed by the Universidad Mont Blanc, which is a university in Maputo, and it was developed taking into account the needs of the local population. So one of the triggers here is how you implement and how you design and how you develop the government solutions in order to move into eGov. One of the countries that is doing that in the best way possible, in my opinion, and it's for me it's an example to show all over the world, is Cape Verde. Cape Verde, they develop an agency that started to be a governmental agency and now acts more as a public-private company, and all the software is homemade. This might be strange, but in my opinion can make the difference, because you are not importing anything. You are not going to one of those major companies based in US or in Europe or whatever and ask them to develop the local solution for the tax payment, for the requisition of a certificate in the municipality, whatever. So I do believe, and that's one of the components of the SV4D, is to work together with the local communities and develop with them the solutions that they need to implement, is the homemade policy. And that's something that probably is not in the indicators that Ibrahim was telling us about, but maybe they should be, because that can make a whole of a difference.
Okay. Thank you. It's just a comment, not a question. When I was listening to Philippe showing these life stories of these three guys, I was thinking that when I was an undergraduate, so in the previous millennium, so a long time ago, there was a slogan quite popular that was something like that: think globally and act locally. And I think what you have shown is goes exactly in that direction. But with a difference now that was not so much available in the previous millennium, which is the power of the technology can actually empower us, empower communities, local communities, as the one you have sent in Mozambique or in other countries, to do things. Actually, what I think that characterizes the impact of digitization in our societies is this change of the relationships between citizens and power, citizen state, from a hierarchical structure to a more network-oriented structure. And this has an enormous potential, as I think it was clear in this workshop. Of course, and I agree with Dr. Lorino, there is a precondition. And the precondition has to do with infrastructure, and has to do also with funding. We can go and be innovative in solutions for that, as Ibrahim was proposing, through the reduction of shadow economy and other. But we also have to be creative in finding the right partnerships with the states, but also with the private sector, with several organizations to address this, which is really a sustainable development problem. And that's just this comment.
Finalize and trying to link how the ICT-driven innovation is connected with the impact of smart governance and the finance system. The ICT solutions and smart cities could change the way citizens interact with governments and the engagement with citizens, for instance, using social media. And that is the connection. And if the cities have a smart governance, and we want to see if the principles of smart governance, a good governance, have impact, if the government are performing well, we need to measure, and we need indicators, we need index for smartness. And what are the economic impact of these indicators? So this was the link that we did with this presentation. Okay.
Just from I mean, taking into consideration like how a smart city is built and all these infrastructure approach that you need to have, in Latin America there is a problem of corruption and drug cartels and well, from my background I'm more knowledgeable about that, but yeah, it's a problem everywhere. So how can you transform the governance or the governments and the civil society of these countries or these cities in order for them to actually engage into these projects to build a smart city? Because there seems to be a lack of political engagement from the community. The government corruption creates a disregard in the population of actually trying to pursue public policies or trying to to make the government do these things because they already lost faith in the government? How can you actually pragmatically do that?
Yes, sorry. As I was saying, using the principles of good governance, of transparency, accountability, and ICT could help to governments be more transparent and more accountable. And the technologies here have a crucial role on transparency and accountability. It's my opinion.
May I ask you where are you from? Mexico. Any more questions? Or can we? Are you going to add something? Sorry, Ibrahim.
Very shortly, I think very shortly, because if you remember the elements that we presented about the smart city and smart country index, then there are two aspects that should be provided. The first one is if your background is economics, then it's easier to understand. The first aspect is necessary condition. The second aspect is sufficient condition. Necessary condition is all foundation in the process of developing people, education, human capital. That's something that countries should fulfill. And then sufficient condition will be all about infrastructure, because otherwise we will be talking about which one come first. And to us, probably the necessary conditions should be provided that allow citizens to be ready with transformation, and then infrastructure should be coming second to support that foundation to be more developed. Thank you.
If there are no more questions or comments, I think we have to wrap up and finish it. Just to conclude, I don't want to disappoint you, but unfortunately the story of these 3 children that I shared with you, they are not real, but they could be. And if you think closely in your countries, I bet you'll find a lot of Josephs, Marys and Naomis, because access to the internet and access to ICT and universalization of ICT can really make a difference. And it's in our power to make more stories like this to become real and to become true. So I want to thank my colleagues from the United Nations University, also thank ITU for the facilities, and thank you all for the patience that you had on being here, sharing your experience with us. Thank you very much.